There's a global pandemic. A virus is sweeping across our world, and society continues to change. What's going on, you guys? People punching each other in the face in stores on purpose? More people believing it's a hoax despite more deaths. All kinds of crazy stuff going on. And if you haven't thought about any of this, good for you. But if you have, welcome to Staring at Goats, where Jacob and I are going to guide you through your Plague Land journey. Jacob, it's good to see you again this week. I'm, of course, the host, Steven, joined by Jacob. Lando, MIA again. Tragic loss for this evening, as we always enjoy Lando's commentary out there in the great state of Washington.
So what I heard happened was that a helicopter showed up and picked him up and brought him to LA to one of the COVID parties. Is that?
Yeah, from what I understand, yes, definitely a helicopter full of Antifa dragged him out of his house and put him in a COVID party.
Dragged him out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what it was. He did not leave willingly.
No, I mean, not initially until they got out the weed. And then he was like, oh, never mind. This must be okay.
Oh, it's going to be that kind of a party.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So then he was like, okay, this sounds great. And so he's partying it up at some COVID house down in deep South Central LA. We don't know whether he's going to come home or not. He might have the time of his life. But
and next week, I'm hoping that we'll at least have an update for you so that we can tell you whether he's got coronavirus or not.
Yes, we hope to do that as he experiments for us unwillingly to see how contagious this thing really is. Because, I mean, does anybody know, Jacob? Does anybody know how contagious coronavirus is? I mean, really, all we have is a bunch of people saying they got it. But, like, what is that? I mean, what does that mean? Nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, we don't know how contagious it is, but we do know what will happen if you get it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, here's the thing, you guys. We're being facetious. We both are well aware this thing has like an infection rate of 2.3 or some insane number in the biology world of a pathogen making its way from person to person. It's kind of insane. Like, if this was the zombie bug, this is our trial run, you guys. This is the T-virus trial run.
So, Steven, have you noticed that every single zombie apocalypse movie, well, maybe not everyone, but lots of zombie apocalypse movies starts with this very premise?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. Virus happens, and then the only thing that we know for sure is that people aren't getting back up and eating their friends after they pass.
Yet.
Right.
So there could be like a, 6-month delay in when they actually rise from the dead and start eating people's brains. I mean, they're still full, so their body can still maintain. But once they reach a certain point, they need brains. And then they're going to realize that's about 6 months out. And then they're just going to start coming after us.
Jacob, I mean, this is Night of the Living Dead. They crawled out of the ground in that movie. And if they're going to crawl out of the ground, that means that they were under there sitting, waiting for
Would you say they climbed out of their
Oh, I'm not going to go into that, Jacob. I wouldn't say
Did they climb out of their grave, Steven?
I would say that they shuffled their way northbound out of the dirt. Listen,
to North Space.
This is
zombie
inside
edition of
This is inside baseball. Not enough people have been around this part of this neck of the woods for long enough to be a part of this conversation. But I tell you what, they have been around long enough for. That's to see their lives turned upside down by COVID-19. Jacob and I, we have continued to see it happen. We've talked to more people. We've been in different communities. We've talked to folks about what they're feeling, how they're doing, and everybody's in a different space, man. Jacob, you're going back to work a couple times a week. How's that going?
So work has actually been okay. We've got about a 30% occupancy in our building right now, and that's been maintained from the beginning. It's increased to about 40 to 45 now, with a couple of us going back a little more frequently. I was still going back about once a week, but now it's actually increasing a little bit more. But I got to tell you, it's not so bad. The worst thing about it is the lunch. We have a wonderful cafeteria in our building. They They serve just absolutely fantastic food. It's subsidized by our company, so we get nice cheap lunches. It's wonderful. And they've reduced their offerings so they don't offer the same thing. So you've got to either get fried foods or a salad pretty much now. And so I eat a salad every time I go. And then of course the cafeteria has a big lunchroom where you can sit down and enjoy your meal. And they've got maybe, I don't know, 30 seats out there now, and they're all 15 feet apart. We took social distancing to the extreme,
Yeah.
and really decided to move people apart. But yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. The worst part is actually the commute, to be honest with you. I think more people are starting to go back to work. More people are getting back into their daily lives. The commutes are starting. You're starting to see some backups in traffic. Um, that's actually the worst part. I've actually been okay. I got to tell you, working from home for me is a struggle because I'm not used to working from home. I'm not a huge it's not for me. It's not for everybody, right? And this is one thing that I need my space to focus. I need that area where it's you walk in, you get work done, you knock it out, you walk out. And that's not my sunroom here. This is my I can sit on the internet and play a video game and talk to Ashley, and she can do work. And I mean, this is our kind of our miscellaneous room, and it's not a workroom, if that makes any sense.
So you're not one of the people that's like, made me work from home and I'm never going back. You're quite the opposite.
I mean, how about this? I could work from home 1 or 2 days a week. I cannot work
Yeah.
at home 5 days a week. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I've got a new baby here, so I hear Ashley maybe struggling during the day with him, and so I want to run and help. And I find myself getting engaged in other things and not being able to focus like I normally can when I'm at work. And I find I have to work slightly longer hours because I'm not as focused during the core hours that I need to be.
You should be more like our grandfathers and say, "Woman, hush that baby up. I'm in here trying to do business." How do you think that would go over?
That would not go. Yeah, come on. Ashley.
No.
I would get kicked in the nuts. She
Yeah.
would put my nuts in the middle of my throat with one swipe of the foot. Wonk. It would not be good.
Og says to please film that. Yeah, I'm not
good.
I'm not advocating that for anyone. It's for one thing, it's just incredibly callous. For the other thing, it's dangerous for your health. You shouldn't do that. I was in a similar boat when I was working from home a little bit when Sam was born. It was like I was like, oh boy, I hear the chaos and I want to rush in and be like, how can I help? No, I completely understand that. But yeah, so just talking about roundtable stuff, I could kick us off a little bit because I know you got one topic you really want to dive into. But for me, the last couple weeks, because we didn't film last week, we've been kind of gearing up for school. I got a kindergartner going in. We made the decision to keep him out. I think it was the last episode we recorded was when I was losing it over that guy who just is an absolute butthole. So we opted for virtual learning. So we're getting all this information on how to do it. Today, we went in and met the teacher. Yesterday, we did an online meet the teacher. Today, Sam actually went in. And what was cool and heartbreaking is Sam gets there and he's like, I'm really excited for school. I'm like, that's great. You're not going to be going physically to this building, but at least you get to see it for when you do go. But like you get this kid and he's actually excited for school. I'm shocked. He goes, I'm actually kind of excited to learn stuff. None of this play, blah, blah, blah. I want to learn things. I'm like,
nice.
Okay, cool. So we get him in there. He has his mask on. He does everything he's supposed to do. Has his mask on. They teach him how to check his temperature because they got to check their temperature every morning when they walk in. That whole deal at the school is laid out so well, Jacob. So well. Mm-hmm. Plexiglass in front of everything. Chairs are spaced out. They've got the way you walk into the classroom. There's like you stay on the right lane as you're walking, and you keep space between you. You wear masks when you're in transit. I mean, dude, they could do nothing. They could do nothing more. This school, I mean, fripping installing those metal detector things for temperatures, like that's insane. All that being said, it took about 10 minutes for Sam to just pull his mask down, stick his finger directly up his nose, and then put it back up again. And I'm like, these are kindergarten. I mean, he put the mask back on, but he was like, finger up the nose, put the mask back. There's no way You can do
Yeah.
this. There's no way you can do this. And I was brokenhearted because they're like, Sam, here's where your cubby is. Here's where your chair is gonna be. Look, it's got your name on it. You brought your backpack because he took his backpack with him. We didn't even tell him. He's just like, oh, I take my backpack. So they were like, Sam brought his backpack. He can put on the tag for carpool pickup and stuff. Like, I mean, it was adorable and tragic having to look at this kid so bright faced and honest to goodness excited to be going into kindergarten because we've been hyping it. We're like, it's big boy school. It's going to be exciting. And to know that he's going to be sitting at home on Monday with mom playing assistant teacher. Because that's what the teacher said. She's like, I'm your teacher and I'm going to be teaching you over video, but your mom's my assistant. So you have to listen to your mom. And they're trying their best. But and I will say this about kindergarten. There's two ways you can take kindergarten. You can look at it as my kid needs to go into the best kindergarten so he'll be the most brilliant kid he can be. And you can take kindergarten the way that this teacher took it. When she comes to my wife and she says, so here's the thing. If a link doesn't work on Monday morning, if you're trying to get in and the computer won't work, you need to call us or get in touch with us. Don't panic. This is kindergarten. And it was so refreshing because she's just like, listen, we're going to be learning letters, colors, social stuff, routines. These are important, but this is just kindergarten. This isn't college. You're not looking for a 4.0 GPA. Like, we're just here to get the kids rolling. Kindergarten's about getting them rolling. And that was comforting. But yeah, Jacob, for a month tops before they're shut down because of an outbreak. Easy. I don't care what they do.
you're looking at what's happening in other school systems that have already started, and they're already seeing outbreaks. I mean, did you see the picture that I don't think we have this in the notes, but I think I put it in our show Discord. But there was one school that a student took a picture of the hallway. And the hallway was just littered with people, and there were no masks to be seen. And it was a high school. And I'm like, holy crap, how did this happen? And then the student gets suspended for violating the terms and conditions of social media or whatever, because they're not supposed to post any kind of pictures of other students without their permission. But they posted hundreds of students in the hallway. And she said, well, I felt like this was probably more important to highlight what's actually happening in the schools as opposed to, getting punished. And I think they ended up revoking that suspension and letting her back in school. But the bottom line is you're going back to schools. This is going to happen. I was talking to a lady today at the doctor's office. I had to bring a family member to the doctor's office, and we were talking to the lady, and she was telling us about her 4-year-old and how she's got to go to preschool. And she was like, I can't expect that preschooler to wear a mask all day long. And she was like, I can't even expect a high schooler to wear a mask all day long, much less a preschooler. And I said, yeah, you got a good point. And
yeah. And whatever happened to America's proud tradition of protecting whistleblowers? Because that person was a whistleblower, and I'm proud of them, and they should have done it because it was a massive. It was very informative to people who don't know. Jacob, you can't know if you're not allowed in the school, and you're not allowed in the school as a parent without like a permission slip and an armed guard. I mean,
that's right.
They don't let people into school just because they say, I'm Jim Bob's dad. They're like, we don't know who you are. I don't know if you're Jim Bob's dad. I need some identification. I need a DNA sample. I'm going to need you to take this cup in that bathroom and prove you're his dad. And you're, I think
you are not the father, Jerry Springer.
That was Maury Povich.
Maury Povich.
He used to be just like a Phil Donahue or like, any afternoon male Oprah. Pretty much. Mm-hmm. And then he just went complete bonkers with he's the father is, I mean, if you got a niche that works, go for it. I mean, he's making paychecks, right. So whatever. But anyway, enough about Maury Povich. Well, this kid did us all a service by showing how how unlikely this is to succeed. And I think
that's the best point that you just made. It is unlikely to succeed. We are rolling the dice and praying that we hit snake eyes.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but either way, it's like you roll the dice. You're like 7, baby, 7. You're like snake eyes.
You want to come up empty. You want to come up no positives. And you're going to get them, man. You're going to get them because Doofus McGee on Facebook running around talking about it being a hoax. He's not protecting himself. He's going to give it to his kindergartners. The kindergartners are going to go in school. Boom. And Jacob, the thing that I can't figure out is the asymptomatic issue. The asymptomatic issue. You can do all the temperature checks you want in the whole world. and you will come up empty and still be contagious. And you won't show symptoms for 2 or 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, who knows?
Yep.
And this whole South Korea trial where they were like, no kids really get it under the age of 10. That was simply because the schools were already out and children's bubbles under the age of 10 stay so small. Is it because they're still relying on parents moving about? They're still relying on so many things that the teenagers would get it because they're a little bit more mobile, I guess, is what I would say.
Oh, yeah.
But kids younger than that weren't getting it because they were shelved. They were housed in their bubble. It doesn't mean that kids can't get it. And I think that leaning on that is kind of inappropriate. I think it's an inappropriate use of that statistic. You have to look at the whole situation.
It's self-selecting as a bias.
Yes, for sure. But anyway, speculation, Jacob. Let's get to you, because I don't got much to rant about today. But let's get to you.
So I owe it to the people, the Staring at Goats people, to talk a little bit about the stock market. And the reason why I owe it to you is because I was thinking it was going to be a bloodbath, an absolute shit show during earnings season in the second quarter. The last 3 weeks have happened. Earnings season has come. Earnings season has gone. And it went exactly as I was expecting relative to companies coming out and saying, guys, we had a flippin' awful quarter. It was bad. Not a little bad, a lot bad. That's what they came out and said. BP, great example. This one gets me irate every single time I think about it. BP lost $7 billion in the second quarter. They lost $7 billion.
With a B, a billion.
Billion, yes. They pretty much said, we're not buying crude. We are trying to preserve cash in any way we can because we're going under. Business is not good. Business is bad.
Business bad.
Their stock goes up 10%.
What? Jacob.
I'm telling you, I don't understand what is happening right now. We have healthcare companies out there that are making a killing right now because they're selling COVID tests, they're selling needles, they're selling all kinds of surgical masks and other things. And those companies losing 20, 25% whenever they announce earnings, talking about how they had a great quarter and how they're expecting growth in astronomical proportions, and they lose 25%. And then you have BP saying, we're holding on to cash because we don't think we're going to make it. And their stock goes up by 10%. I mean, it's all speculation at this point. There's absolutely no reality in this. Did the markets do good? Well, Russia's going to have a vaccine. Oh, stock goes up. And I mean, it really is news dependent at this moment. It's whatever's happening. The flavor of the day is happening. Oh, there's going to be a China-US deal. Stock needs to go up. Oh, the China-US deal is in trouble. Stock goes down. Oh, we're going to get a stimulus package. Stock goes up. Oh, we're not going to get a stimulus package. Stock goes down. It's like, oh shit, we're riding a roller coaster of 24-hour news cycles. And this is awful. And Stephen, I got to tell you something. I read a news article about the UK. And the UK came out and said, guys, our gross domestic product is down 20%. Stock is tanking. We are in a recession. This is awful. And it's bad over there. They didn't lose as hard as we did. We have actually dropped 32% of our gross domestic product.
Oh my gosh.
32% drop in GDP. And our stock market is hovering around record highs. Guys, we've lost a third of our economy, and the stocks are hovering around record highs. I love it. I mean, I think the Fed owns pretty much everything. They've pretty much said that we're going to secure any losses that are happening right now. I don't know what to do relative to the stock market other than sit back, smile, sip a beer, and just say, F it, guys. Doesn't really matter anyway. It's all phony money.
Buy a Bitcoin.
Yep.
Yeah, we sit here and yell socialism, but their government's buying every business we have. So it's like, okay, whatever. But so Jacob, I think this is worth a deep dive. We don't need to go into it, but a question I would like to raise is: at what point did the stock market become like the absolute truth of American economic success. Like, and at what point did we decide that was a faucet we could turn up and down to
Yeah.
determine our standing, like globally almost? Like what our stock
Hmm.
market does affects markets all over the world. And I
Absolutely.
think it's safe to say that other markets affect our markets, but ours has largely been, since probably World War II, the one that
Mhm.
determines overall global health of the economy.
Well, it did happen in World War II. It was because we were the manufacturing kings of the world coming out of World War II. I mean, if you look at planes, if you look at any kind of military infrastructure, if you looked at anything coming out of the world, it was made in the United States. I mean, that was pretty much how we got started. But yes, the stock market actually, I think, became my initial thought, my knee jerk is when 401ks became dependent on the stock market, when people started investing in mutual funds, when people started investing all of their money, retirement money, into the 401 from their 401ks into the stock market. That's whenever the stock market became, you know,
Yeah.
the blessing of the economy, as the stock market goes, as Wall Street, and now as Main Street goes, because so many people rely on the stock market doing well to see their 401ks go up. I mean, Og over here in the chat is talking about how he's got 2 kids going to college. Jacob, shut the hell up about the economy, because I don't want to see it tank, damn you. But there's a reason for that. Is not because, he's one of the, well, I'm not going to speak for Og, but I will say it's not because people are in the 1%. I know that I'm not interested in this because I'm in the 1%. God, I wish I was in the 1%, but I'm not. Um, I pay attention to this because I have money invested in the stock market. And I think most people do, that are in middle class or even upper middle class or even lower middle class, because of their 401ks. Um, I think the economy is a lot bigger than just the stock market. But if you look at everybody's the effect of the stock market, it does affect everybody. And I think that's really why people look at the stock market. But
Yeah.
again, that's just my opinion about it. I haven't really had time to think about it, but yeah, that's my knee jerk.
I just think it's interesting you have so many barometers for like the health of a country. I think there's one, I don't
Hmm.
remember if it's a European country. I don't remember if it's Denmark or the Netherlands, but there's one country that measures their gross domestic product as like the happiness level of the citizens. Like, how are our
Oh yeah, yeah,
citizens doing overall? How is the general, what's the morale of our country? And I don't know how they gauge that, but I think you could almost gauge that on like how many people do we have in poverty? How many people do we have
yeah.
unemployed? How many people do we have that are struggling with health issues? And you could kind of gauge like your overall country's happiness level. I think ours is probably in the pooper, Jacob.
Well, so Stephen, that's actually a good point. Let's dive into that, because I look at, overall health of our society. We're dealing with a pandemic, so let's talk about the just general health of the population is poor. Happiness levels. I mean, hell, we've got protests nonstop in our country. That's poor. We've got social unrest happening all over because of our politicians and the current election status, and it's only going to get uglier. It's not going to get prettier. I promise you that. So that's poor. We've got obviously the stock market. That's, you know, high, poor,
Yeah,
good,
right.
bad.
Right?
I don't know.
America's the greatest because our stock market isn't in the tank. That's the only thing we've got holding us up. And it's a
Because the Fed
balloon.
bought it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a balloon, and I'm fascinated by the whole thing. Like, and the funny thing is, every middle class person who still has a job still has worries and concerns about where that leads them the next 6 months. Is that like, okay, well, I have a job, so I'm happy? Like, I have a
Yeah.
job, I have every reason to be happy. I am breathing, I have food, I have a roof over my head, I have a great job that I enjoy. It's
You
one
got
in a
your health.
million that here I am with health and stuff, but I'm still concerned. That doesn't necessarily ruin my happiness level, but it does kind of
Yeah.
lead me to worry about things that are out of my control. It seem to be completely controlled by this magic number that's called the Dow and the
Yeah.
Nasdaq. Oh, okay, S&P 500. These things have a direct effect on me because it has a direct effect on the country's health overall. It's like it's
Yeah.
not enough just to be happy in your house doing your thing, taking care of your kids, playing in the pool, the
Well,
inflatable pool.
I feel like we've always divorced that, right? We've always said, well, we're happy because of the kids playing in the pool and the white picket fence or whatever made people happy. And we divorce that from here. We've got our stockpile of money over here, and that makes me happy in my greedy estate, right? And but we've always kind of had a good way of separating that. I think where we're currently at is we don't understand this side of it, because there are certain fundamentals that happen within a company to tell them, yes, we're doing good, yes, we're doing bad, or no, we're not doing good, or no, we're not doing bad, that investors can say, ooh, company bad, stay away from. Ooh, company good, let's buy, invest, and make money with them. Or let's buy this bad company at a real low price because it's now a bargain,
Yeah.
because they're in the crapper like BP right now. I mean, that stock should be as they should be at the basement of all things. Hertz Rental Cars is filing for freaking bankruptcy, and they went up by like 150%. It's like, what is going on with this? I don't understand these kind of numbers. And so the fundamentals that we're used to just aren't holding right now. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's the invent of Robinhood, or if it's these pretty much phone app warriors who are day trading using the apps, or I just don't understand what's causing some of this. And maybe
I
that's kind of the point.
this is a podcast all by itself, Jacob.
It can be.
The economic understanding the economy and how it works and what its fuel. I'm no stock market person. I've told you a million times. Like I don't know how it works. I have too much of a personal relationship with my dollar bills. I'll happily give it to someone who asked me for it on the streets of Raleigh, but giving it to a company for my own future, that sounds crazy to me for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Like I can't compute it. And that's so I'm fascinated by what you say, because I learn a lot from you about how it works in
Well,
general.
so I will look at TV Stravis and I go, yeah, it is capitalism, because his comment was, yeah, it's
Yeah.
capitalism. It is capitalism, but it's a capitalism that I've never seen before. I mean, we're used to our socialistic capitalism, where we're capitalist by day, and then we've got our social programs that we invest in and that we give to and that we make sure are running. So we're not really a true capitalist society. We're a capitalist society when it comes to our businesses in the stock market, and then we're a socialist society as far as a lot of these social programs that we try to leverage and build up and all buy into. I mean, hell, Social Security's been around for a shitload
Public
of years, right?
roads, public
I
roads,
mean,
social
public
security,
roads,
fire
public
departments, police
transportation,
departments, those are all socialist programs, the
right?
state run things that we dump our tax money into.
But it's
Um,
something that you can understand. It's something that you've grew up understanding. You know what to expect. You know what to deal with. Right now, we're living in a place where I don't know what to expect and what to deal with anymore.
yeah, and Adam makes a good point. I don't want to stay on this topic for too much longer, but we're capitalist. We aren't capitalists for companies either, because when they start to fall over, we pick them up. I mean,
Yeah,
that
too
whole
big to
thing
fail,
back
baby.
in 07, 08, when the Republican administration bailed out GE and said this is what we have to do, and then wrote checks to every citizen, that was the Republican administration, Jacob.
Mhm.
Or not GE, General Motors. And it was like, back then I was like, F General Motors. I'm never buying General Motors car, taking my tax dollars because they just made bad decisions. But I mean, that's what we do. We bail out companies, but not people. It's a fascinating place to be.
Mhm.
I'm not one of those people that thinks socialism is evil or capitalism is evil. Like, I think there's merit to multiple types of economical processes and how you want to go about them. I think there's virtue in a lot of different ideas. I feel the same way when it comes to reds and blues. I'm like, these are pretty good ideas. These are pretty good ideas, but that's bad and that's bad. Like, I think there's we just gotta find a way back to that conversation. You and I talk about this ad nauseum
Conversation.
on the back porch. I mean, we got to find some way to talk about it without getting defensive. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, I feel like I agree with you. We have to figure out a way to have that conversation. And I think the biggest issue that we're facing right now as a society is that our we're being fed the extremes of both ends. We're not
Yeah.
being fed, how can we have a conversation? Where can we land on this? Where can we land in the middle? We're being fed, how dare them try to do X, Y, and Z? How dare them try to deport all the illegal immigrants, or whatever they try to do, or how dare they try to build a wall, or how dare they um, I don't know.
Everything is
Name your
wrecking.
social thing, or name your hot button issue. How dare them to take a pro police stance, or how dare them take an anti police stance? That's what we've turned into. We haven't turned into, hey, what makes sense, guys? Does it make sense to have a police force that does enforce violent situations, and then have maybe a social force that helps non-violent situations? I mean, what makes sense here? We're not having those conversations. We're having the abolish the police conversation. So
You know what? I'm gonna.
those are non-starters for some people, because they don't even want to have a conversation if you're going to come at them with completely defund the police. But then you have some people that are like, okay, if you don't start with defund the police, then I can't even talk to you.
I'm not gonna be at the table. And here's the thing. I have a It's just son of a gun. I had a thought, Jacob. It was so good. It was such a good thought, and it's gone. ADHD brain gave it up.
I'm sorry. I feel like I just kind of went on a rant.
No. I was thinking. Like speaking. Like I don't want to get into this too deep, but John Kasich. Kasich. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but he was the third in line of the Republican primaries.
The Republican. Yeah.
2016, governor of Ohio, and it was him, Cruz, and Trump. And I remember going, why does anybody listen to this guy? Because he was like, sure, I'd love to talk to the Democrats about some solutions. Why wouldn't I? They have good ideas as well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most reasonable thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't even know who you are, what you did, or what you stand for, but I've never heard something so reasonable in this heated season. So he's speaking at the Democratic National Convention. He's a card-carrying Republican. They invited him to speak. And his response when criticized for speaking, he said, listen, the Republican Party is my vehicle. It is not my master. And I was like, daggone. Okay. And here's where I was going. That got me back to what my train of thought is, that I think the conversations you're saying aren't happening are happening. I think that the media, oh geez, now I'm sounding like freaking Rush or somebody. Like the mass media wants to talk to the senators that have the face for the for the polarized part. They want to talk to that edge group. But I think there are probably senators like Mr. Such and Such from Oklahoma is probably having lunch with Mr. Such and Such from New York. Like, hey, what do you want? You want a pastrami on rye, or you want what are we going to do today? And then they're sitting down going, this is wild. We should talk about some stuff. And they're going, that's nice. We're just going to be whipped into submission anyway. Yeah, you're right. Because that's what they do. I mean, the whole whipping process is, do you want money for your state? Do you want to be a successful senator? Fall in line.
That's right.
And I really want to believe that those conversations happen, because I've met, there's a guy I talked, he was a dude at a 3-letter agency I worked for, and he came in to speak to us, and he said, when I was in the military, he said, started out as an infantryman. And I remember thinking, when I rank up, I'm going to fix some of the problems that I see happening. And he said, I ranked up and I met next to me a bunch of Americans who were trying to do the best they could do with what they had. And he said, so I said, okay, well, the problem's clearly not here. When I rank up next, I'm going to be able to have some real conversations and get this stuff fixed. He got up there and he's like, same thing. More Americans doing the best they could with what they had, making the best decisions. And he said, that happened every time I ranked up. He's like, everywhere I got, all the way to whatever top rank he got to, he's like, I still found people who were doing the best they could with what they had, making the best decisions they knew how with the information they had that I was missing before. And I think there's something to be said for that I think in most cases, people are decent. I think there are some trash bags out there, obviously, that make it. I mean, clearly, we could talk about 100 of them, and this show is about COVID. But there, I really have to believe it, that there's good things happening in the underbelly of the beast that just isn't surfacing, that we don't see daily. Little things. That is the reason we've made it so far. That's not like these giant issues, like freaking abortion. Like, okay, I'm sure there's probably little decisions happening about other stuff that's not so polarizing.
Here's a question. I mean, do you think it's happening at such a high level that, for example, do you think it's happening at maybe the congressional level, where they pretty much are just vying for their next job, which is in 2 years whenever they get elected? So of course they're not going to vote for anything or any kind of compromise, because they need to go back to their constituency and say, no, I refuse to cave. These guys are going to listen to my people and listen to you. And I mean, do you think there's part of it's just happening at such a high level that it just trickles down to the rest of us and we just go, well, we just can't do anything about it because the people up top can't figure it out?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I know as you've spoken of before, local governments seem to be full of people having good conversations. And if
Yeah.
it's happening at local governments, I feel like it has to be happening at state governments. But then you have the shenanigans like North Carolina's thing where we certainly won't vote on this if you don't come because you're going to go to this congressional thing or this big revival meetup thingy-mabob, Democrats. You go on and go do your thing and we won't vote. And then they voted on the budget anyway. And it was like, that was underhanded, dirty, and wrong. And they know it.
Yes. Lots of underhanded, dirty, and wrong things happen.
But that's
in
also
politics.
that's also probably somebody out of like Bennett County going, well, I mean, I had to be there. You know,
That's right.
They said they
I
wouldn't,
was whipped into being there.
they wouldn't
Because
give me my
that's the whole point is you got to
Yeah.
try to get the votes and bring people from your party into the chamber so that they can vote, right?
Listen, Hamilton's room where it happens, and watch Lincoln, this great Steven Spielberg movie. Daniel Day-Lewis pours out an amazing performance as Abraham Lincoln. You will see everything you need to know about whipping votes, because that's what that movie, like the entire climax of Lincoln, was whipping votes. Going from place to place, going, fall in line. We're not even going to put this in front of the thing until you say you will vote for it, and we get your buy-in. And they just hold bills until somebody's finally get enough people that say, yes, fine, I'll vote for your stupid thing that you hid like a fresh truck of peanuts in for your constituents for the state fair. You know, like child safety bill increases military funding by $2 billion. Wait, what? What are we saving the children from? It's just fuss. Anyway, COVID-19. Jacob, we gotta get back on. We gotta get back on the bus because we have a lot of things in the isolation report, and we're 35 minutes into this daggone show, and we've been fussing about the economy and politics. But this is what we do, you guys. This is me and Jacob. Y'all are just witness to the conversation we have in the truck.
Yes.
Fauci on coronavirus. I don't really see us eradicating it. What? Dr. Fauci, the supreme commander of health sciences in America. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, said Wednesday he doesn't think COVID-19 will ever be fully eradicated, but noted it can be controlled. He says, I don't see this disappearing the way SARS did, Fauci said during a live-streamed event hosted by the TB Alliance. The SARS outbreak started in 2003. It was bad if you're born when you didn't know about that. Lucky you. The rest of us watched from America and went, China's real jacked up. That's a pretty bad disease. Mm-hmm. And we all sat around drinking beer doing nothing. Because COVID-19 is
watching NASCAR. Drinking beer, watching NASCAR.
Steve. And did SARS get over here? No, it didn't. We didn't have a problem. Because COVID-19 is more contagious, it has had a far greater impact with more than 15 million cases worldwide, including 618,000 deaths. It's so efficient in its ability to transmit from human to human that I think we ultimately will get control of it. I don't really see us eradicating it, Fauci said. During Wednesday's interview, Fauci described ways that the U.S. can get control of the coronavirus. I think with a good combination of good public health measures, a degree of global herd immunity, and a good vaccine, which I do hope and feel cautiously optimistic we will get, I think when you put all three of those together, we'll get very good control of this. Whether it's this year or next year, I'm not certain. And this is fair because polio still exists, and I would say we've got a good handle on that. Probably we've got a better handle on polio than I think we ever will with this. Just saying. It's not eradicated, but it's close to gone.
So, guys, I relative to his last statements, but relative to the herd immunity statements, there's some interesting data that's coming out right now regarding Sweden and the UK and how the rate of transmission ended up to be the same, even though they took two vastly different approaches. UK shut down completely. Sweden stayed open the entire time, yet the transmission was roughly the same. The number of people infected were roughly the same. So there's some serious doubts cast right now about herd immunity. So I highly recommend you guys digging into that if you're interested in it. I am going to move on to New York City. New York City, what the hell are you guys thinking over there? In New York City, we've got one report where hundreds gather for a secret rave underneath one of New York City's bridges. I can't say the name. An illicit rave took place under the Kosciuszko Bridge. Steven, do you know how to pronounce that?
Kosciuszko.
Kosciuszko Bridge in Brooklyn on Saturday night as bars and clubs remain on lockdown for the coronavirus. A crowd of hundreds of people showed up at an unauthorized rave in Greenpoint, grooving to beats by DJ Masturbate.
Oh, good name. Good name. It's probably from his college debate team, right?
He's the head of the Masturbate team.
Master debaters.
Master debater, that's right. Or he's a fisherman. He's a masturbator.
Yeah.
Who was behind the turntable, blah, 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 blah. Apparently, the event was meant to be a Black Lives Matter protest, and it spiraled out of hand, according to the website of Guest to Guest. And then there was another article about arrests at a illicit party boat with over 170 guests cruising around New York City. The Liberty Bell, a riverboat with 4 bars, 3 outdoor decks, and space for 600 guests, and has been touted by its operators as a favorite venue of New Yorkers, holding both parties, fundraisers, and trendy events over the water. It's come under attack because of social distancing, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line is party boat, 170 guests, New York City. What are you guys thinking? You just got over this. Do you really want to go back to where you guys were a couple of months ago?
Yeah.
Come on now.
No, of course they don't. And man, this next story, I read about this. I saw pictures of this, and I'm so glad you gave it to me as a headline. Screw COVID. 250,000 bikers defy common sense for 9 days at Sturgis, baby. It's going to take a lot more than a virus to stop those going to Sturgis. You're not going to hold that off. You can hold off Comic-Con, whatever, but bikers going to be at Sturgis. Friday was the official start of the 80th annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, where 250,000 people are expected to gather in the South Dakota town of that name for 9 days, defying proven precautions against the spread of COVID-19. Nobody's social distancing, and none of them are wearing masks, local Michael Fellner said. None. The Sturgis Rally own official site has a COVID tracker tab that links to the South Dakota Health Department site, where offerings include a risk assessment for public gatherings. This didn't happen yet, right? This is coming up.
Oh, it is. No, it's currently ongoing. It started on Friday, Stephen.
Did Smash Mouth play a concert at Sturgis?
What I read? At the Buffalo Chip, baby.
Why? I wanted to believe in them.
F that Corona shit. In the middle of their concert.
That's what Smash... Okay, well, they're stupid. Hey, now you're an all-star. Hey, now you're dead.
Guys, you've got to go see Stephen Colbert, his Cold Open. He did a parody of Hey, Now You're an All-Star, but it was the COVID edition. You have to go check it out. It's funny shit I've seen.
If you're going to deal with COVID, you might as well be walking on the sun. Am I right? Flipping Smash Mouth.
Smash Mouth. 14 masks tested at Duke University study ranked best to worst. We all need to wear masks in public spaces to prevent spread of COVID-19, but not all of them are created equal. Little was known about the effectiveness on how it stops respiratory droppings. That is until Duke
droplets, not droppings.
Droppings.
Dino droppings.
Dino droppings. Here, let me move this over here. I'm having trouble seeing that over on that side. His experiments tested 14 different types of masks, who was inspired by a request from one of his coworkers who works with a local organization who distributes reusable face masks. But they wanted to know if these face masks were effective and effective in preventing the spread. So to test the covering, scientists outfitted a black box filled with a laser, a cell phone camera, and had 4 testers try out 14 donated options. Wearing each mask, a tester would speak in the direction of the laser beam inside the box, saying the phrase, "Stay healthy, people," 5 times. A camera recorded the amount of respiratory droplets set off by the speech, and an algorithm determined how many droplets had leaked through the facial covering. The top 3 masks were a medical N95 mask, ranked number 1, surgical mask, ranked number 2, and a polypropylene and cotton blend mask, ranked number 3. The bottom 3.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. You never wear these masks. A knitted mask, that's kind of self-explanatory. A bandana, don't wear a bandana out in public, and a neck gaiter. Don't wear a neck gaiter out in public.
Now, shortly before the show, I did see a comment from the doctor who led this experiment saying the neck gaiter, they do not mean to completely dissuade people from wearing these bottom three. What they do mean is that if you have access to a different one, you should wear it, because the neck gaiter is not really working. The fun thing I thought about was the fleece material actually broke the droplets into smaller droplets, but they still went the same distance. Like their whole thing, they're like, it actually makes it worse because it makes the droplets bigger. They linger in the air longer. They can get inhaled easier. I thought that was pretty fascinating. Well done. Violence in stores. Let's talk about a couple incidents of people just acting absolutely crazy. This is not what Jesus would do, ladies and gentlemen. 2 Trader Joe's customers were asked to put on masks. They attacked the employees instead. Police in New York City arrested 2 men who say they attacked workers at a Trader Joe's after they were told they had to wear masks in the store. Police said the men, John Carcerero and Alejandro Escobar, both 34, old enough to know better, refused to leave and pulled a mask off the face of one of the employees. Police said that Carrero hit a 22-year-old female employee in the head with a paddle, and that Escobar then said he would return to the store with a firearm, which police said caused fear and alarm to employees and customers inside of the store. After leaving the store, Escobar struck a store window with a chair in an attempt to regain entry. No word on him arriving with the firearm, but feeling like you're in New York City and you're just like, I'm going to bring back a gun. Not a great idea. That's like,
no.
New York City is police state in practice, yo. Don't do that. Woman charged with assault after mass dispute at Staples leaves a customer with a broken leg. Police in New Jersey have arrested the woman they said was involved in a mass dispute at Staples store last week that left a customer with a broken leg. Margot Kagan, 54, told police she was using a fax machine at a Staples store when a woman, identified by police as Terry Thomas, 25, approached the machine next to her with a mask pulled down below her mouth. Kagan, who had a liver transplant 4 months ago and was walking with a cane, told Thomas to put her mask on, which police said angered Thomas. Police said Thomas yelled at Kagan and then violently threw her to the ground. Kagan was taken to a hospital where she was diagnosed with a fractured left tibia.
Broke her freaking leg.
A 25-year-old woman beat a 54-year-old woman for being asked to put a mask on. This is why I don't say, hey, how about you pull that mask over your nose, you big dumb butt. But this is, hey, and just before the show, I read an article about an employee at a Sesame Street theme park getting punched in the face by a man trying to make entry because he asked them to put masks on. I don't even know what to do, you guys. I'm out of ideas.
I watched a video about a dude that ran into Sprouts, and he refused to put on a face mask, and he had his 2 idiot teenage boys with him, and he was yelling obscenities at the workers there and saying, "Screw this, screw y'all, it's all a hoax. Y'all look like you have doilies on your faces, blah 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 blah." Some dude finally came up to him and told him to shut the hell up and get the hell out. And the guy wanted to get into a fisticuffs with him. He said, "Meet me outside, catch outside." And then his boys, his 2 teenage boys, had to pick him up and physically remove him from the store because he was getting violent. And I'm like, is this really where we're at today? I mean, are we really here?
Are we at a point where just basic civil human interaction is not possible anymore? Like, are we meant to? This is the point where we are all afraid of each other, to the point where we can't even associate. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't understand this because I'm not in this brain. I'm not in this mindset, Jacob. The day I understand why people act out like this is the day I need to just stay home, because I can't empathize with it. There's no reason to behave this way. None.
I mean, I feel bad reporting on it and even talking about it, because it's the same shit, different week. I feel like we've been talking about this for 20 weeks. People are really getting pent up and acting stupid, and now their belief structures are being called into question. Not scientific belief structures. I mean, we're talking about more of a religious belief at this point, as opposed to some evidence-based belief.
It's the Facebook, Jacob. Facebook is ruining society. I believe it 100% with everything I have. You heard the cashless conversation tonight. Cashless society. We're going to be cashless society, so we have to get the mark of the beast to buy rice.
Like, we had that conversation.
We had that conversation, to which me and Jacob had to gently say, no, it's not a cashless society. It's the coin shortage because we can't get the coins because people aren't spending cash because they're not going out. They're doing more DoorDash. We had to explain this whole thing. So it's like, it makes sense. It's not just government deciding all of a sudden cash is irrelevant. And you need a social security number to buy bread. Speaking of, if you want to call something a mark of the beast, everyone has to have a social security number to do a lot of things. So you tell me. You tell me.
Let's move on. Woman charged with assault. Oh, no. You've already done that. South African rhino poaching halves in 6 months thanks to COVID-19 lockdown. So the rhino population apparently is doing pretty good. The number of South African rhinos killed by poachers fell by half in the first 6 months of the year, partly helped by the nationwide coronavirus lockdown and disrupted international smuggling rings. South Africa has been known for years. South Africa has battled the scourge of rhino poaching, fueled by the insatiable demand for their horns in Asia. Most of the demand emanates from China and Vietnam, where the horn is coveted as a traditional medicine, an aphrodisiac, and as a status symbol. The ministry attributed success in slowing the rate of poaching to a decade of various strategies and supply chain disruptions that stem from the national travel restrictions during the coronavirus lockdown. Officials warned that since the lockdown restrictions have been gradually lifted and the game parks are reopening, so too has rhino poaching slowly increased.
So are you telling me that poachers just don't go on the hunting grounds because it's closed?
I think poachers from other countries or poachers, they can't get, number one, it sounds like they can't get their goods out of the country. So they don't want to have a glut of it, which I don't understand. Why wouldn't you just go kill them? And then whenever everything opens back up, you have a glut. So you could say, hey, I got your rhino horns over here. So I don't understand that. But I'm assuming because maybe the people that are killing them are the ones who are coming from abroad. They're the ones doing the killing. Or at least
they couldn't get in because the country was locked down. So now the countries
it's like going on safari, right? I mean, I'm sure those safari folks are struggling, the guides, because nobody's traveling to Africa. Nobody's traveling anywhere to go on safari. So or like fishing trips.
Anywhere. Why would you travel anywhere? It's crazy out there. It's crazy everywhere. And I don't know if there's going to leave some imprints on me for years to come of how to go places, and people are going to make me nervous for a long time into the future. I just thought it was funny. I imagined them just closing the gates and all the poachers just going, "Oh darn, door's locked, can't go in.
Yeah, can't get in."
Guess
Let's go home.
It's like saying all the looters at a Target are like, "Shoot, doors are closed. Guess we'll loot a different store." Speaking of, I had no idea that All Gas No Brakes was in the looting that was happening in I think it was Minnesota, and was wandering around while the looters were looting, like trying to interview them. That dude deserves like a Nobel Prize or something. Yeah, like that guy. He's been picked up by some network. Anyway, I still want to talk to him because like he doesn't say anything. He just holds microphones at people and they just ruin it for themselves. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, I think our chat is ruined over here by two ACC people that, are new additions to the ACC anyway. You got Pitt and Syracuse over there, who I don't even understand why they're in the ACC to begin with, but they're in the ACC talking about how they're the best in the ACC. When you've got storied tradition schools from the ACC like Duke and I don't know, not really UNC, but Duke, that are far superior, vastly superior.
Well, Jacob, do you remember when WVU went to the Big 12 or whatever it is, and they're like fighting? Their rivals were now in Oklahoma and Texas, and it's like this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, why would you do that? But they were also saying like WVU, I joined the SEC, and it was like that's a bad decision. WVU would get stomped in the SEC all day long. They would just be the jobber team. It'd be like you're going up against Lightning Jack in the WWF against Hulk Hogan. It's just someone for him to throw around the room,
That's right.
I don't know if there was a Lightning Jack. Funny enough, there was a Kamala Harris wrestler who passed away this week. I thought that was kind of an interesting coincidence. His name was Kamala, I think. But either way, I found that fascinating. But God rest your soul, Kamala Harris,
Yes.
the wrestler. So deep dive, Jacob. We were just talking about football. Why not just keep talking about football? Let's keep talking about football.
Let's rock and roll. Let's talk about football. What you want to talk about football for?
I want to talk about football, how it's not going to happen, and how if anybody thinks it's going to happen, they're kidding themselves. And I expect more murders.
That's right. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 both postponed their college football season due to coronavirus concerns. The Big Ten announced Tuesday that it will postpone fall sports this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. The conference said it was consider pushing fall sports to the spring of 2021 if it is safe to do so. About an hour after that announcement, the Pac-12 called a news conference to also say its season would be postponed until at least the spring. We're talking about two powerhouse conferences. The Big Ten, meaning no Ohio State, no Michigan State, no Penn State, none of those teams. We're talking about no Pac-12. That means no USC, none of those teams, no Oregon, none of those teams. This is about to get real. The SEC is going to be the last to hold out. I know it. But ACC, they're having conversations right now about pushing theirs to the spring. All the Power 5 conferences are talking about it. I would be shocked right now if one group or one conference plays and the rest of them don't.
Jacob, I can almost guarantee you that whoever chairs the SEC has a red phone conversation to the president of the United States to say, like, you tell me when or if I shut down, because the minute the SEC shuts down is the minute everyone cries foul on coronavirus, gets upset, says whatever we got to do, sacrifice chickens, get this thing open. And they just need somebody from the top to say, yeah, I was all anti-mask the whole time because we got to have our football. And then that'll be all they need. That'll be all they need. Mm-hmm. I mean, the SEC is protected by Jesus, Jacob. They don't have to worry about this stuff. They're down in God's country, Dixieland.
God's country.
So they don't have to worry about coronavirus.
What I say yesterday, they just need to take some of that Jesus juice, that hand sanitizer, rub it on their butt, get out there and play some football.
Get out there and play football. Seriously, the only way that the SEC cancels. What's the coach of Alabama? What's his name?
Nick Saban, baby.
Nick Saban. And Gus Malzahn is the Auburn guy. If both of those got coronavirus and died, maybe the SEC would cancel. Maybe. Maybe not. It's hard to say. What, are you looking at me because you think that they wouldn't?
I don't know if they would. I mean, the SEC that's football country. I mean, I would have said the same thing about the Big Ten, man. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, come on.
Yeah, and Ohio State. It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
That is, I mean, you're talking about the Midwest up there. That is all football all the time.
Yeah, Michigan, that's football land. Michigan State. No, you're right. I don't know what... Jacob, there's no way football season happens. They have grown men in a bubble at Disney World, and basketball can barely play.
Yeah.
I mean, grown men at Disney World. You know what college is made up of, Jacob? Do you know what college is? People full of sperm.
19-year-old kids. That's right. Young, dumb, and full of,
semen. And I'm telling you, they are not gonna behave. They're not. I mean, I
remember what I was like in college. I was an idiot. I was an absolute idiot.
Everyone
I thought I knew everything about everything, and I tried to prove it to everyone.
Yeah,
and I didn't.
You were not successful. You're still trying.
I may have been successful in convincing somebody that I knew something about something, but I was not. No, I was an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, we all were. Everyone was. That's the thing. Like, there's no way you can look me in the face and say, no, I think college children will be able to handle the coronavirus and football at the same time. No, they won't. I'm sorry. Sports has to end for a year if we want to get a handle on this, because you're going to get everybody sick. I don't know how. It only takes one, Jacob. It only takes one person to feed it to two other people who feed it to two other people. Locker rooms, they're not sanitary places.
If you look at a lot of the teams that are coming back, a lot of those kids have the virus. I mean, there was one school in Eastern North Carolina that had 14 members of their football program that had confirmed cases of coronavirus. I mean, they just put him in quarantine and said, "Don't touch anybody, don't go near anybody. We'll be good. 14 days, baby."
Jacob,
And then you've got other players like Trevor Lawrence, who is arguably the best player in college football, that's writing these notes on Twitter saying, "We want to play, damn it!" And there's a group of players that are saying, "Look, we're supporting of him. We want to play." And then there's also a group of players that are saying, "He does not speak for us. Shut your mouth. Don't ever speak again. When you become educated, then you can speak." And there are some players who are saying, "Look, I don't even want to get involved in this conversation." So I don't know. I understand the conversation needs to include the players. And right now, I feel like that's the problem, is that these conferences are doing it independent of the players. They're doing it independent of the very people that arguably are going to be putting their life on the line to be playing. And I feel like they should at least include them. I don't feel like they should just broadly say we're done with college football and not have any input from players who are the ones who are actually on the field.
Well, and
Or any sport. I mean, we're not talking about football here. We're talking about all fall sports.
Yeah.
So we're talking about things like soccer. We're talking about things like, I mean, hell, I swam in college, right? We got started in August, the first day of August. Ours was more of a winter sport. I don't think we had our first meet until November. So we were more on the basketball timeline. But does that apply to these programs as well, because they're winter sports, or is it just all the fall programs?
I don't know, man. I just, this is, I had another thought, and it disappeared on me because I was looking at footballs in the Constitution happening in our chat, and I got really lost in it, and I didn't know what to do with my thoughts. But I have no idea what to do about the sports issue. I wish I had the sympathy for it. Like, I know what I was going to talk about. I was in your truck, and you had NPR on, and I wish I knew who this player was, but I think he was a college player, and he was discussing how he does not want to play in a school's football program that does not have a proper doctor to deal with prior to play or before the season starts, that fully understands the conditions that football players have to deal with, including concussion science, like all this stuff. He's like, we got to start arguing for our own personal health if we're going to play football. Because many of them, it's scholarship. It's like, you owe us, get out there and play the game. And they're trying to reverse, at least in his mind, he felt like the role needed to be reversed a little bit. If you want me to play for you, you need to make sure these things are met. I need a person with an actual MD to watch over us. I need somebody who understands what happens to football players, so that I know that someone's got my back for my actual health, and that you're not just going to stick me with needles if I get injured on the field and go get back out there and wreck your knee some more. Because we know that happens. They go in the magic tent, They get the magic ointment, or a big old fat needle shoved into whatever tendon just ripped, and they say, get back out there and play the game. We'll sort this out when you're done. That's dangerous, Jacob. It's jacked up. It's not good for people or their bodies. And I was fully supportive of his opinion. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you need either your own personal doctor to say, don't do this, or do it, because we got too many football players freaking getting dementia and like unable to tie their shoes.
So what I'm interested here, and I listened to your comments, and my immediate response is this. I think athletes, regardless of whether they're football players or what they are, what sport they play, they should be looking out for their own bodies.
Yeah.
And what's the lady, the WNBA star, Della Donna, I believe, Donna Della, whatever. I don't know her name, but anyway, because I'd probably hack this up anyway. But she tried to opt out, apparently, and because she tried to opt out, the team doctor wouldn't let her, because they said that she wasn't in a high risk category. And she was like, who are you to tell me that I'm not in a high risk category? My doctor told me to opt out. The doctor believes I'm in a high risk category. I'm not going to play. And apparently she's not getting paid, I don't think, because she opted out and she wasn't in a high risk category, or I don't know. But the bottom line here is this. There are a lot of conversations that are happening in all these different kinds of sports that are different. I mean, you've got college football who are completely ignoring players. You've got pro footballs who had this period of opt out where they could opt out in the first couple of weeks of training camp, but now all of a sudden they can't opt out anymore because that period is gone. So now if they're playing, they've got to keep playing. I guess I don't know what happens if their mother gets cancer. Do they stop playing? Because now all of a sudden they're high risk. I don't know those conversations. Then you've got basketball players at a period of opt out, or else they won't get paid, or they have to go to this bubble and leave their families behind for weeks at a time and escape to go get freaking chicken wings. And I mean, there are so many different conversations happening in sports. I mean, look at the PGA Tour. PGA Tour is back online, man. They're doing it, but they're doing it without fans. They're talking about bringing fans in soon, I think, though. So, there's so many different conversations going on right now regarding how different sports are handling this.
And college is something completely different. Like, if you're getting paid to play basketball and you're in breach of contract because you won't play, that's
Stella Dinosaur.
You sign a contract to play the game. It's not that they own your body. It's that if you don't do what they say you need to do, you can lose your money and your job and your position. College, man, kids, these are kids. We forget that these college players are 18, 19, 20. Like, this is not a place where they even know they have rights, Jacob. I mean, these guys have been playing, a lot of them have been playing football since they were in Pee Wee. And they just, this is what they know.
A lot of them, I would say all of them. You're talking about every single athlete there has been a part of either their sport or a very similar sport since probably they were 8 to 10 years old.
Since they were super, super young. So they only know one thing to do. I go in, do what coach says to do, win game, get trophy, go home. And that's how they're conditioned, and we're looking at them and treating them like these grown men, professional athletes. Like, sure, they're grown and they're 18 and they've left home, but they're still stupid. Unless they've got someone advocating for their rights and their health, they don't know any better other than, sweet, I got signed to go to Michigan State. I'm gonna play football and I'm gonna do great and good. But then
they are getting paid, Steven. They're getting a free education.
Yeah, right. Don't get me started. I mean, that's true. They are getting an education, and if they did forfeit their seat on the football team, they would have to pay for that education. I get it, but I mean, the government will give you plenty of money for education if you ask. FAFSA, baby.
You don't want to get me started on the NCAA not paying people, because that's a whole different conversation.
We've been down that road.
A whole different rabbit hole, and I'm sure that the chat would go absolutely bonkers if I get on that.
So let's move off of football. Let's talk about something far less polarizing and talk about Russia.
Far less.
I think talking about Russia might be safer than discussing Syracuse and Clemson.
That's right.
Russia, man, they said they got a vaccine, Jacob. They said they got a vaccine. It's successful. They have raced to the moon and won. You are probably the only person, since Lando's not here, qualified to talk about vaccines and Russia and how they win, Jacob. How did they beat the United States of America, the exceptionalism that is our health and science program, to get their people a vaccine before we ever could?
I mean, I fall with Dr. Fauci on this one. I seriously doubt that they actually proved this thing out to be safe and effective. Period.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that this is a worldwide crisis, and they're treating it as if it was a race to the moon. They're calling it the Sputnik 5. They're trying to show their dominance since they lost the space race. Obviously, they're going to win this one. This is their claim to fame. This is their space race, baby. They're first to space. I mean, first to vaccine. The problem is that if it could end disastrously, the risk is huge. Absolutely huge, because what it could potentially sow is distrust in vaccines, because number one, it may not be effective, and if it's not effective, then people won't take it, and we won't develop the herd immunity to begin with. If that's what we're thinking is going to happen. The second thing it will do is, if it's not safe and it will start killing people, people won't take the next vaccine that comes out that actually works, that was proven to be viable. So we're in a catch-22 here, that if it doesn't work for Russia, it's no risk to them, because Russia, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the geopolitical system in Russia right now, but Russia hates Vladimir Putin at this point. I mean, he has led them astray. He has promised them things and has not delivered on them. Coronavirus has ravaged that country. Lots of people are sick. Lots of people have died. The economic infrastructure in Russia is just abysmal right now. I mean, things in Russia are bad, and Vladimir Putin needed a big freaking win. He needed a win in a big freaking way, too. And this was the way. So for him, the upside is okay. I get a win on the world stage to say, yes, we got a virus out there, a vaccine out there first for this awful coronavirus. The downside is, oh shoot, it killed people. Did did you actually think that Russia had anything other than vodka to give us on this one, or did you think that they had some? I mean, really, did we think that Russia was going to be the one that supplied the virus? I did, or the vaccine. I did not. I was 100% certain it was going to be one of these collaborations that are happening, coming from some of the most impressive companies in the world. But Russian scientists beat them to it.
Yep. So, Jacob, I watched Chernobyl. You watched Chernobyl.
I did. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I know. We saw Soviet government say and do things that we know happened, or was factual, to make Russia look good, to make the Soviet Union look strong. The key was that the Soviet people are going to be willing to sacrifice lives and everything else to protect the integrity of the image of the Soviet Union. Is some of this potentially like culturally grounded in Putin in particular? Maybe not in the Russian society as a whole quite to the degree it was. But is Putin just in that mindset? Like, I need to appear strong. I need to be what we have to be. Russia has to win. Screw all the evidence and all the science. This matters more than our image and our standing matters more than whether I'm actually right or wrong. I'm curious about, I don't know that I'm asking that.
I don't know if I have an answer. I think the answer to that is yes, but I really don't know. I mean, let's face it. They did less than 2 months worth of trials on this, less than 2 months. They've been accused of hacking. Every different scientific agency that's working on a vaccine right now for this virus. They've been behind from day one on this. They refused to even admit that they had it at the beginning, right? So for me, they've always been one step behind, and for them to somehow miraculously leapfrog everybody to the finish line just seems like maybe they took a car 25.1 miles of the marathon and then got out and ran the last little bit.
Yeah, they cheated.
That's where I feel like they're at. And I'm not saying, how about this? If it comes out that it works and somehow miraculously it does work, it would be the biggest, riskiest win in the history of all things almost. I mean, it would just be an absolute Hail Mary win. It would be like Doug Flutie winning for Boston College over there. It's like, holy shit, did that just happen? Auburn just won the football game. What was that one?
Gosh.
The field goal back.
Alabama's going to win, and the field goal went short. Yeah.
Right. That's the kind of Hail Mary that they're hoping for. They're hoping that this will actually pan out. And if it does, they're going to be viewed on the world stage as the vaccine savior. Yeah. They were the first ones to put it out there, and they squashed the coronavirus. That's what they're hoping is going to happen. And I'm not, who knows? Maybe it'll happen. I've seen I really haven't seen stranger things happen, but I would not expect that to be the case at the end of this, but who knows? Maybe it will. But I tend to agree with the scientific minds that are leading this, like Anthony Fauci, the WHO directors, and the CDC directors, who are saying, I'm skeptical.
Okay, Jacob.
Very skeptical.
Tinfoil hat time. What if? So we know that our leadership is quite taken with Russia. We can get set aside whether they're like actually working in conjunction with, but clearly heavily influenced by. How much of a tantrum do you think Trump throws when he hears, because he doesn't fully understand science or evidence or medicine or anything, that they got a vaccine before we did?
His head would explode, wouldn't it?
What do you think? And do you think that as a Russian ploy to make Trump's head blow up? I'm curious. I just thought of that live on the show. I haven't considered this at all, but I think it's worth a half second to think about.
That would be interesting. They're doing it just to watch his head explode before he loses the election.
Putin is a master manipulator. I remember watching back in 2008. That was McCain Obama, right? Like a million years ago. That was McCain Obama. And McCain was like, nobody knows Putin like I know Putin. He's like, Putin's KGB. I know KGB. I've been around long enough to fully understand what Putin does and what he's capable of, and nobody gets it. I thought that was fascinating. I never really thought much about it, but Putin plays a manipulation game. And there's nobody more manipulative manipulatable than our president, because he's all about ratings and himself and what that appearance is. And if Putin wants Trump's head to explode, all he has to do is say, Russia got it first. Russia wins big. Trump goes,
hashtag winning, baby.
Trump goes, call the FDA and see how many things or tell them lift everything. Get us a vaccine in people's hands like immediately. And I'm wondering what that happens.
Lose though, right? The whole point of this news release was that Russia got there first. It doesn't matter what Trump's response is at this point.
It does. You have to get inside Trump's little pea brain, Jacob. Trump's little pea brain says, I don't care. Russia did what they did, but ours will be better. It will be incredible. It will be the maximum effectiveness anyone's ever seen. It'll be huge. It'll change the landscape of the world. Everyone's going to want our vaccine because it's clearly better than Russia's, and we've got it now. I made a call. Took care of the whole thing.
No other administration has ever done.
No one would ever do.
Nobody in the world has ever done.
Nobody.
Things that no other country has ever done. Those lines are getting old really quickly.
They are. They're getting real hard to listen to. But Jacob T, that's it. That's all it would take. And he would greenlight some vaccine. He would pull every single power he has as an executive to make it happen. And he would get you a vaccine that was the best and might kill you. That's how this game is played, baby. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't even care if he wins this year. He just cares that he looks good losing.
But so here's a question. Do you think that he would get on the horn and say, FDA, remove all the restrictions, remove the red tape, make these companies go faster, get people enrolled in these clinical studies, these phase 3 studies, get the right vaccine out there and get it out there now? Or does he say, Vlad, buddy, hook a brother up with about 100 million units and send them ASAP?
So I think that they've definitely got some by now. They've probably already got the vaccine in hand for American scientists to poke at. It wouldn't shock me. We're not going to hear about it. We're not going to know about it. We're not going to even understand that it's happening for weeks, if we ever hear about it at all. But they've got it, and they're trying it. They're not trying it on people, but they're poking at it to see what it does. Or what it's made of, what it consists of, they're breaking it down, Jacob. They have to be. We're no dummies. This is a country full of smart people, Jacob. And when we get behind, it's one of the best places for us to be. When America's behind or out of the loop, America comes back swinging. I'm reading this book called The Great Influenza, about 1918 flu. We had one of the worst health, education environments in the world in the late 1800s, Jacob. Basically, Jesus protects us from germs. We don't even know what germs are. We can't really be sure that they're even real. Can you breathe? Are you a male with a heartbeat? Congratulations, you're a doctor. That's what America was doing while Germany was blowing the lid off medical science. And we're just like, whatever, we're America. But man, we got behind. Johns Hopkins comes along. It's like, you know what? We're going to try actually educating doctors. How about that? That's why that place is such a big deal. It was the first real American college that actually took some time to study modern medical science. And now we went from that to, in 30 years, being one of the best medical countries on the planet in terms of forward-thinking medical science. World War II, we're like, nah, we're not going to get involved. We're cool. They bombed us, and we're like, F that. Now we're a military powerhouse. Come at us, bro. We don't like being the underdog, and we've been on top for so long, we forgot what it feels like. put us behind just a little bit. I'm telling you, the right leadership will crank us forward faster than you could ever believe. It's gonna hurt.
That's very true.
It's whiplash.
I'm 100% with you on that. I believe that that we are definitely we are in a position where we need to catch up.
Yeah, we need to catch up, but we need the right leadership to see what needs to happen to do it. And I think that's where we're lacking. we want anyway. I don't know why I got off on that. I got on a tirade. White Russian kicked in, I guess. But what we do need to talk about.
Russian kicked in. You were drinking your vodka. So Russia's really good at one thing, and that's vodka. Stick to vodka. Don't go to the vaccines.
I got a Swedish vodka.
Steven, would you inject yourself with the Russian vaccine?
No, not in a million years. Not in a million years. Nope. Forget it.
I'm struggling a little bit because we're the company I work for is probably going to say, Jacob, you got to take this, brother.
The vaccine that you guys develop, or the vaccine that you're going to buy from Russia?
Well, that's the point. I don't know where they're going to get their vaccine from, and I don't know what it's going to take for them to actually say, yeah, sure, the vaccine from Russia is going to be okay. You need to take it. They may tell me I've got to have it. I doubt it, because they're pretty reasonable and rational individuals, and they're probably going to say no.
Yeah. The only vaccine ever been forced on me was flu, and that was because I worked for a health agency. And I didn't work with patients, but they still said, requirement for your job or you'll be terminated. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll have a flu vaccine then.
Get one every October. Beginning of October, I get injected because I have to.
I do now, like mid-October, because Stephanie, I think she said you kind of want to wait till October. Even though they're available late August, September, you want the October because it's more peaked throughout flu season. Getting it in September or August can lead to it dropping off faster than you want it to, which I think was kind of fascinating. But anyway, Jacob, we need to move on to our question of the week. You posed a question, and we need the answers.
Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
I can read the questions. You can read the answers. How about that?
I'll read the answers.
Sacramento Kings star Richaun Holmes said chicken wings were the reason he now famously left the NBA bubble in Orlando and was forced into isolation for almost 2 weeks. If you were in the NBA bubble, which let me remind you is in freaking Disney World, what three things would you sneak out of the bubble and risk isolation to do?
Steven, what are your three?
Oh, shoot. You want me to have some fun, or do you want some real answers? If the Ice and Bleach bubble is already in Disney World, so I got to go somewhere else. Crystal Burgers. I'm in Florida. Okay. Crystal Burgers would be pretty. Oh, I'll go get me one of them delicious Crystal Burgers. What would I not have in the bubble? What would I not have in the bubble, Jacob? I might.
Well, there's no companionship.
Oh, no companionship. I would meet up with my wife, who would fly in secretly. That would probably get me out of the door. And my little man, because I love my little man too. I'd want to see him real bad. And if Blink-182 reunited with their original lineup, I would go to that concert. Immediately. Yeah. Those are my three completely hypothetical. What would you do?
I don't know. I think there's a Death Dog place called Hap's Grill that I grew up at. If they sold hot dogs around there, I'd have to leave and go get a Death Dog. It's one of those ones with chili, mustard, onions. Oh, it's just delicious, dude. Oh,
the works.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'd have to leave there for, is Death Dog. I call it a Death Dog. It's not really called a Death Dog. It's just what I call it, because whenever you eat too many of them, you feel like death. Definitely that. Definitely conjugal visits. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, Orlando seems like a pretty fun place. There's what, SeaWorld over there? Oh, the Carol Baskins from Tiger King on Netflix is not far from there. I'd go and leave to see one of those tigers that she has. And she's keeping in captivity, but yet criticizing everybody else because they're keeping tigers in captivity.
Well, they're keeping them wrong, Jacob.
Yes, that's right. They're doing it wrong, and she's keeping them in captivity, right?
Well, what were some of the answers we got from our famous Discord crew over there at twodorks.net/Discord?
Oh, we had one guy say, I'd be with my wife. Yep. Conjugal visits. I see where you're going with that. Get a PS5. That's a good one. Vote.
Yes.
We had one person say, "I've had some good ass wings in my day, but none that I would risk 14 days of quarantine and everything else." So, for some wings, I think that's the best answer right there. Good
What
ass
wing
wings in
shop
my
would
day.
you hit if you like you got okay, let's imagine you're in the most sacred land in America. Every wing place that exists is in this place, but you have to leave your bubble to get to it, and there might be COVID everywhere. What chicken wing would be like the chicken wing that you'd go
Are you
for?
of course you'd have to go with Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
And you probably have to go with somewhere like Anchor Bar.
Oh, yeah, okay. I've always heard Anchor Bar wings were the best wings because they're the original wings up
They
there in
are
Buffalo,
the
New
OG.
York.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of the best wing I've ever eaten, like the flavor that I really liked. And I'm not real picky. I kind of like Buffalo Wild Wings, but just to support the local place that exists in this utopia, I'd probably go to Salem Street Pub. Uh,
Oh yeah.
I really
So
like
Salem
their
Street
hot
Pub
wings.
had good. Their wigs were good, but they were good not because the wigs were good. We went to another trivia place that had far superior wigs, um, and they had far superior food. But Salem Street had this quaint nature, this quaint atmosphere that you just dug whenever you walked in. You're like, man, this is awesome, guys. I love this place. I'll eat wings here every day of the week.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I like Ace. Ace clearly always the Pennsylvanian Quaker. I think it's Quaker Steak and Lube, right? Isn't that what they? It's Quaker Steak. I almost went in one of those once. Heard they're really good.
Out of curiosity, everybody I've known, Ace, this is not directed at you. This is directed at everybody from Pitt. But everybody I know that is from Pitt or around Pitt or somewhere in the vicinity of Pitt thinks that that place is the best place on earth.
Hmm.
Everybody else thinks it's the armpit of the world, but if you're from there, you think it's just the shit. And so I'm trying to understand how that the people from there love it so much. I mean, I've heard really good things from the people that live there, but the people that don't live there, I'm like, heard really bad things. So I'm trying to understand why there's a discrepancy.
I've known four Pennsylvanian Pittsburgh natives, and my word, everything you just said is correct. I met one guy. I'm pretty sure he lives here, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
his heart remains in listens to Pittsburgh radio. Um,
Yep.
Calls the college he worked at in Pittsburgh routinely to give them tech support advice and offer and ask for help for tech support here at his job for any ideas they might have. Like it's I for one applaud communities
Yeah.
that bond together in such a way. They have their own language. I think is a thing that there's a language in Pittsburgh. But like I've lived a lot of places, Jacob. I don't really. I love the great state of Alabama in a sense, but I mean I can't say I celebrate everything
Mm.
that comes out of Alabama. I love Alabama a whole lot. But that's because it's I got good memories of
It's
my grandma's house.
right. I was gonna say it's home. There's something different about that. I mean, I have fond memories of where I grew up, but I have no desire to go back there at this moment.
Okay,
None.
so here's an example. If I'm gonna try to translate what Ace put in the chat just now is Pittsburgh Yinzer lingo. We go in downtown to the jingle to pick up some hoagies and pop that. You just know the body. I couldn't even hold it together. I tried to read quick. I lost that last part. And pop nat did Yins read up Yins room. I never got the Yins thing. Like that's the only place that says Yins. Like y'all is you all, but I don't know what Yins means. But anyway.
Anyway,
This is still
beyond
about
the point. And then we had a
COVID-19.
couple of folks talk about family emergencies would be the reason why they left the bubble.
Well, yeah,
So,
of course, yeah.
I mean, of course. And I think family emergencies are covered under the I would leave my bubble. They would allow you to leave. I mean, Zion Williamson was actually one of the ones who was able to leave the bubble because of a family emergency.
Yeah.
Came back, quarantined, and then went back and continued playing.
Well,
So
Jacob, that's it. We do have some feedback. You want to dive into that right quick before we call it a day?
sure, why not? What was the question? I know Ace wrote us some stuff.
Question was for Jacob, since you have a scientific. You're the most scientifically minded of the crew. He asked, isn't a coronavirus basically just the building blocks for common cold and flu? And if so, why did this one get so out of control and become its own thing? Which I think is a valid question. We heard this early on pretty well. If you could succinctly explain kind of the method behind it.
Sure. And I don't know if getting it got out of control is the right way to describe it. I mean, coronavirus, all it is just it's a class of viruses that cause various illnesses. They cause everything from the common cold to everything, to other things called like SARS or MERS. That's the severe acute respiratory syndrome, and then what was the other one? Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. The reason why they're called coronaviruses is because they look like a crown. The virus does whenever you look at them under the microscopes. They have a very similar structure as a crown. So that's the reason why they're called a coronavirus. We believe that it started in the animal population and it was transmitted to humans from an animal. And then now it is able to be transmitted human to human. Our immune systems have not seen this specific type of coronavirus before. So we haven't developed any immunity to it. We have not seen it before. So therefore, we don't have antibodies for it, and we definitely don't have a vaccine. Well, no, we do have a vaccine according to Russia.
Russia has one.
But I think that's the whole point, is that we don't have any antibodies to this one because we haven't seen it before. It's probably it's more contagious than things like influenza or the common colds, obviously because of this novelness or this newness. We haven't had any way to prepare for it or any way to fight it off. So bottom line is, if you have problems, things like if you're on medication or if you have decreased immunity for some reason, or let's say you're elderly, it creates more of an inflammatory response, and it can be a lot more serious because we haven't seen it before. So that's the reason why it's a little bit different than, let's say, the common cold. The common cold we've been exposed to all our lives. We've been exposed to since the day we were born. Influenza, we've at least had some immunity to some strain of influenza pretty much since our younger years. This one we have not seen before. So our bodies are responding in that way. Therefore, some people that are very sick or some people that have a propensity to becoming sick will get more sick. So I hope that answered your question. It wasn't as succinct as I kind of went on a couple of tangents, but I think
it was important.
The majority of it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's good to know. I'm definitely trying to keep abreast of like some of the research into why some people get sicker than others. Last I read, it was potential vaccine history could have something to do with why some people go completely asymptomatic. I was listening to I think it was NPR. Once again, driving your truck, Jacob. Thank you for that. But listen to Bryan Cranston.
I always have it on NPR whenever I'm in the truck.
Hey, it's a good station. But yeah, so Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, he got it around the same time Tom Hanks got it. He was just quieter about it. And he said well, I kind of felt I had a little bit of a cough, and I was down for like a week, really lethargic. But he's like, otherwise, me and my wife both had those symptoms, came out fine. And then you read about people who were like coughing up a lung. Like, dude, the Spanish flu of 1918, people bled out their eyeballs, Jacob. Bled out their eyeball. I had no idea. People cough so hard, they rip the muscle from their ribs. Like, what? And people were still not wearing masks. So
Can you imagine how bad that would hurt, Stephen?
Oh, gosh.
To rip the muscles off your ribs.
From coughing, Jacob. They were coughing up blood. They were bleeding out their eyeballs. I mean, and then you still had people not wearing masks because they said it was faddists, whatever that means. They're following a fad, and they, like people now were like, oh, they're on ventilators, but back then they're just like coughing myself to death, and people were like, hoax. Like what? That's right, baby. What the crap?
Every time. So, speaking of, every time you sneeze or you cough in public.
Oh man!
Do you immediately look around and go, "No, I don't have COVID. I don't have COVID. Not COVID." Is that going to be the new sneeze thing? Yeah, not COVID.
You know what I think? You know what I think is? I think it reminds me of Monsters Incorporated when the monster walks out of the room with he's got a sock stuck to his back. Like code 2319, code 2319, and they just like tackle him to the ground and shave him and rinse him off and everything. Like you sneeze in public, that's what happens. Somebody else code 2319, and they just a whole horde of bodyguards just comes and barrels you to the ground in hazmat suits.
That's right.
I gotta take care of this. Thank you
But
guys.
that's going to be the new Gesundheit. It's going to be instead of
Not COVID.
God bless you or Gesundheit, it's not COVID.
Not COVID. Man, thank you guys so much for being with us on Staring at Goats. Jacob and I, but Jacob, we went everywhere. We went absolutely.
We did.
We do this. You and I don't.
And
shut
the
up.
sad thing is that I think we just rambled and ventured off to different areas, and we swam upstream like salmon during the spawn. It
Well,
it was glorious and awful at the same time.
People stayed around, and for that, apparently, what we're saying is fun for you guys to listen to. I really hope you're like playing a game or something while we're rambling on about the geopolitical system. But yeah, so COVID-19, it's a thing. It's still here. We're still here. We're going to keep talking about it. Hopefully next week we'll have Lando back to give us his insight, because I'm sure he can keep us back on the train and keep us from running off on bunny trails like we do. But if you do like the show, tell some people about it. I think that's one of the best ways you can help us out is by telling people, hey, I listened to Staring at Goats, get some good info on COVID-19 and some pretty cool opinions and conversation. And just like me and Jacob having a conversation, we want to encourage you guys to send emails to staringatgoatspodcast@gmail.com or tweet us. You can tweet me, Steve H&H, or the Twitter account, staring_goats. I'd love to hear from you. Different ideas, different thoughts, where you're at, how you're feeling. I think that stuff really makes this show work, that back and forth communication. So thank you so much for those who have emailed. Keep them coming. This is one of our most emailed shows. Horseshoe Narrators, we don't get emails. This one we do, and I think that's really cool. And if you like the show and you want to give us $1, consider going to twodorks.net/Patreon, or excuse me, patreon.com/twodorks, and getting joining our Patreon and helping support the network and what we do here. And with that, you guys, just stay safe, wear your mask, and we'll see you next time here on Staring at Goats. Bloop. Forgot to hit the other button, so we're just going to go with the goats for the outro this time.
Boom. I'm good with the goats in the outro.
I like the goats. Goats, goats, goats. That's it, you guys. That's a show.
You know, I wish I would have tweeted out my my GDP discussion one from Staring at Goats. I feel like that would be a great first tweet.
You would like to join the Twitter sphere now?
No, I don't. I do not have any interest in it. But whenever I sent you the UK isn't losing hard enough to start winning again.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That would have been the perfect Staring at Goats tweet.
That was really good. I think
for all of you that didn't see it, I sent here. Let me copy that. Copy message link. Post it in the chat. Nope, wrong one. I need to copy text. I don't need to copy link. I'm an idiot. This is what I was on about the UK crash into one of the worst depressions. So what did I say to the group? This is what I said to the group. You fucking wankers. I feel like that would have been a fantastic tweet.
Yeah, that would have been really good.
That would have been a good tweet.
The UK isn't losing hard enough to start winning again. I thought that was that's perfectly appropriate to what's going on right now.
Yep.
I mean, Jacob,
and then calling them all fucking wankers.
Yeah, that was pretty good, dude. When you buy the dips, I mean, if we dip, we buy, right? And that makes it go back up. I mean, everyone
Nobody's
buys the dips.
buying the dip. I mean, so here's what I don't understand is that if you're investing right now, if you're putting money into the stock market, you are putting money in at the highest risk that there is, because companies are telling you their performance is shit.
Yeah.
Right? They're telling you we did awful. We lost $7 billion, but people are still putting money in. They're going to have to pay the piper at some point. So we're going to expect to drop at some point whenever people stop losing their freaking minds and stop speculating about when the dip is and when the high is going to be. and that we're going to have to pay the piper. And whenever we do, it's going to drop. And those people who decided to put in when the Dow was at 27,000 and it drops down to 19 or 20,000 are going to be in a shit world of hurt because they're going to have lost most of their investment.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
Hey, what do I know? I stick to the fundamentals that I grew up understanding, and those fundamentals are not holding right now. I do think it's interesting. So I brought up something that I hadn't really thought about during the show, which was Robinhood. I wonder if Robinhood is contributing to some of this. If people are getting on Robinhood and buying stocks, right now and doing these day trades because they're speculating on whether or not the stock's going to go up based on, I don't know, Apple is selling a new iPhone or whatever the news of the day may be.
Jacob, I had a teacher who had Pixar stock when Pixar was its own company before Disney. And do you know that he always bought Pixar stock like a year before he knew a new movie was going to release, and he sold it when the movie released, and he made money every time?
I bet.
And to be fair, Robinhood is something that's making waves. Using Fidelity is difficult. Using Vanguard is difficult. Using Ameritrade and Stock Trade and stuff like that, there's language in it that it inhibits someone who doesn't know a lot of how to do it. What's a limit order mean? What is what is max? How do I maximize this? What do I only learned what limit orders were because I played with Bitcoin for 5 minutes.
That's right. Yeah, because you traded Bitcoin and what was the other one that you traded? Ethereum and
Ethereum and Bitcoin. I had some Omise Go for a little bit, which was supposed to be the Korean one that really took off. It didn't. But yeah, like I was playing with that. But Robinhood, Jacob, you go on, you say, I would like 1 share, please. Go. And you buy it. And there's no muss, no fuss, no confusing terminology. Just you buy it an amount and you can sell it an amount. And that's all it takes. Robinhood disrupts the stock market to the point where a lot of these older companies aren't even charging for trades anymore. They're not even charging per trade because Robinhood doesn't charge per trade. And if Robinhood doesn't charge per trade, then they have to compete with that.
Yeah. Well, the Gen Xers and the millennial generation are starting to really take over the day trading tech arena. And so whenever they do, what's going to happen is that some of these type of technologies are going to start taking hold, and some of the older technologies, the Charles Schwabs of the world, are going to start losing out. So they have to change their thinking a little bit and say, how's Robinhood doing it? Because that's who the millennial generation has chosen as their winner at this moment, right?
Jacob, I work for a company that sells Linux. I am #1 proponent of disrupting technology and disrupting industries with new thoughts and new things. To be the first company that can fix email, I'm invested in them because email's a broken, jacked up system, and no one knows how to do it, and it's messed up. The closest thing we have is Hey, and everyone should check out Hey. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they have a pretty cool system for getting a handle on your email. But yeah, man, like I think we need more of that. I think that we've spent 120, 150 years in the Industrial Revolution, and it's time for another big leap. Like, we went to space. I agree. We need another big leap. Ace, maybe this is how we do
brings
it.
Up. Go ahead. What's that?
No, I'm good.
No, Ace brings up millennials are the largest population block in the U.S. Listen to us now, damn it. I agree with you. I think they are the largest block. Should we listen to them? I don't know. Have we given, as a millennial generation, have we given anybody a reason to listen to us?
Ooh. Yeah.
Because I do not believe we have. I believe we have been self-entitled asshats from day one, and we are continuing to be self-entitled asshats by forcing people or demanding people to listen to us. I don't think we've given people a reason to actually respect our opinions and actually listen to us. So demanding that they listen to us, I'm not sure is going to get us anywhere. Yeah, sure, we're the largest population block, but if you look, we're also the population block that's struggling the most. We're the ones who are not being as successful as our forefathers. We're going to be the first generation in history to not be as successful as the previous generation. That doesn't sit well. And what are we supposed to blame it on? Are we supposed to blame it that our parents didn't love us enough? Are we supposed to blame it that our parents didn't leave us with the worth in a good enough shape? Or are we supposed to take responsibility and say it was our fault? Damn it, we didn't do what we needed to do. I don't know. I don't know the answers. I'm raising these questions.
You're asking a question.
I'm 100% asking these questions. I do not know that we've given anybody anything to force them to listen to us.
There was what did I see today? And I saw a guy talking. It was like a parody, but it was a real thing. It was this country boy with the cowboy hat. I think Alex Albisu retweeted him or something, but it was basically talking about like it's time to grow up and listen to other people's opinions and be cool to people. And I think it was in regards to like homosexuality and transphobes and stuff. And like, hey, just listen to folks and their struggles and what they're going through and all this different stuff. And he was doing that like the country boy attitude about it, which for some reason like it resonates with people. When you have somebody with a country accent and a cowboy hat trying to defend the rights of others, it's like, particularly others that demographic doesn't usually step up to defend. It's pretty fascinating. But one of the things he said, he was like, you're all yelling because your mama didn't love you enough. Well, maybe you're old enough to love yourself. And that was what you reminded me of. It's like at some point you take responsibility for where you're at and you stop looking back at all the things that went wrong and you start going, hey, a lot went wrong. And that's not inaccurate to say, but it's time to pick it up and start. And, you know, it's no secret. I did pretty decent, got a good start because my parents did love me. They did take care of a lot of things for me and help me make my way to a good start. But I mean, I got my college education and then I went to work. And from that point on, I can take that as my contribution to my own life is doing a good job, being kind to people, having some integrity, doing the work, putting in the time. And, you know, you just grow from that. But that's not easy for everybody. But I think there does come a time where you got to just face it and go, am I going to continue to lean on everything that's gone wrong? Or am I going to go snatch a hold of the thing I do have and say, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to do what I can. And, you know, I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, and I don't even know. Yeah. I brought this up without really.
You did.
I kind of threw it up there, and Ace brings up a good point. Yeah. The millennial generation wasn't really given a chance to succeed.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm not arguing with that. What I'm arguing is that, sure, we have faced those kind of adversities, but Stephen and you and I have talked about this before. As a generation, we have not faced a true adversity or adverse event.
Nah.
You know, the generation before us, they fought in Vietnam and they really had, they had a tough time. The generation before that had World War II. I mean, we had Korean War. We had Iraq. I mean, those were difficult times, right? The millennial generation is the first generation that's pretty much inherited a war, but they haven't had really truly trying times. I mean, I think back to World War II. I've been doing a lot of reading on World War II, by the way, with FDR and with Harry Truman, and some of the decisions they had to make. And just, I wouldn't wish those decisions that they had to make on anyone. But one thing I did understand that they, or at least realize, is that U.S. as people were unbelievable people, and we got the world standing because of that generation. They were considered the greatest generation because they stepped up to the plate and they swung and they hit a home run, and they did everything that they were asked to do. They were manufacturers, they were textile workers, everybody pitched in. It was an awesome feat. The American people were unstoppable. Stephen, are we unstoppable as a generation?
Probably not. I think I would put us more, and I mean, this is just a couple idiots on the internet, you guys.
I know, yeah. Don't trust. We're just over here spitballing at this point.
Yeah, this is what we do.
This is a Tater and D-Wade.
We'll talk this out, and we'll come back tomorrow. We'll have completely different talking 100%, points.
100%, yeah. And I'm glad that this podcast is over with. Now we're just kind of rambling.
Now we need to go to bed. But it really feels like we're more in a Roman situation of easy living. And I know things are hard. I'm not saying things aren't hard, but I'm saying in the grand scope of things, there's not a bear trying to eat us right now. Like I'm not worried that someone's going to sneak into my house and slit my throat at night. Most of America isn't. Sure, you battle scary things throughout the day. There's people that walk down the street and they're like, is that going to get me? Is that going to get me? Is this going to get me? But I think a lot of America goes to bed comfortable and knows I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I don't really have to worry about that. And I mean, to be Ace, 9/11, I was in junior in high school at the same time. I would not consider myself drastically affected by 9/11 or Afghanistan. If I
was
joined in the
college.
military, sure, I would say that my life was
Yeah.
massively changed. I didn't join the
Mhm.
military. I wasn't drafted in the military like Vietnam veterans were. We didn't have a draft. We had a volunteer military. We had what some people would explain was a misdirected attack on Iraq. Some people would say it was exactly what we needed to do. I don't feel. I feel directly impacted in that I remember it, and it is a traumatic moment in my memory that happened to us as a people. And I remember everyone getting up and going, "Wow, this is insane."
Yep.
I was in West Virginia. I was hundreds of miles. I didn't even know anybody. I mean, and I can't. I'm not gonna feel guilty for not knowing people. It's tragic, and I feel bad that it happened. I worry about everybody that ever went through anything, but I'm personally less impacted. By that. So I wouldn't say that my 9/11 experience is a struggle.
Yeah.
Is a
And I mean,
heartbreaking experience.
my 9/11 wasn't a struggle, but I did know somebody in one of the towers. They were in one of I can't remember what floor they were on, 33rd floor, or whatever. They were working for Northrop Grumman at the time. But I was in college. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting in the lab. My professor came in. He was actually my grad instructor, and he came in and said, "Guys, you need to turn on the news." And so we turned on the news, and we spent all day in that lab watching the news, trying to understand and digest.
That's what we
actually
did.
just
They
happened.
rolled in the
And
TV on wheels. They were like,
yeah,
"This happened." I remember it like yesterday. But like,
yeah,
and there were people that were like crying on the floor. I've just never been
mhm.
that emotional of a person for things that disconnected from my immediate realm.
Well, so the difference between 9/11 and Pearl Harbor is Pearl Harbor had a dramatic impact because not only were we attacked, but we also knew who the attacker was. We knew why they were attacking, and we knew how they attacked us. And it was an inspiration for people to join them, pick up arms, and fight for this country.
It was like the last.
9/11, we didn't
Yeah.
understand what we were getting into. We didn't understand who was attacking us. We didn't understand why they were attacking us. All we understood were planes hit the building, and we don't know why.
Yeah,
And we
that's
lived
true.
that lie for a long time, as to not a lie, but we lived that
Narrative.
mentality for a
Yeah.
long time. And then whenever we finally realized what was going on, it was already to a point where we were like, "Oh, that's why that happened. Now let's go get them." And it then snowballed, and we ended up where we ended up. But I just don't know if we knew who we were facing at that time. Not Pearl Harbor. We knew exactly what was going on. We figured it out. We found out, and we that was the impetus behind some of the most difficult decisions ever made in the world, dropping two nuclear bombs, and that
Ooh.
was we're a week out of the 75th anniversary of that.
Man, and yeah, to think it wasn't that long ago. Everybody looks at it like it's ancient history. It's just, I mean, different things impact different
Yeah, it
people.
is.
We always try to rope like millennials are all the same. It's like, well, technically, I'm a millennial, and my sister was born 6 years after me. Completely different millennial experience.
Yep.
As far as she knows, she was she was probably 4 or 5 when we got internet. I didn't get internet till I was 12. Like that's it was different upbringing, different things happen, and it depends on what part of that millennial you are, if you're on the borderline, if you're not on the border. Look, people are
And
people.
I
We've been
look,
jacking this up for we've been jacking this up since the beginning of time in one way or another. People have been stabbing each other, people have been yelling at each other, people have been complaining about the youth of today doesn't know what they're doing, the youth complains that no one listens. Unless you were hippies in the 60s and you were just like, nobody listens to us, F it, let's do LSD and play music together.
and by the way, I really don't know the I raise these questions because I truly want to hear opinions. It's not because I hold an opinion on this, and I mean I have thoughts,
And
I have ideas,
you
but
can hold
I'm
an
not sure.
opinion. It's just, I think opinions are things that are wibbly wobbly. You ask me
Yeah.
a week from now after I've taken in other people's perspective, I might be like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said it that way. There's probably a different way. And we've got to get past you keep me on this phone. I'm going to keep talking, Jacob. I swear.
I know.
You're going to kill me. But I mean, there's people change, people go. especially people like us who get on the internet and say stupid stuff like this. We say things, and then you get off and you're like, I shouldn't have said that. I probably could have phrased that differently. I'm sure that was taken the wrong way. And then you get on a week later trying to apologize for it. You just can't do it. It's exhausting. Everybody grows. Everybody learns something that they said, oh, well, I didn't even know that person was struggling with X thing I said was foolish. You know what I mean? Like we're better than that. And that's what I like about this community. We can chat like this. And I know Ace has a lot of Ace. I love you. You got a lot of opinions, very strong ones. I appreciate them, and I appreciate that you've decided not to blackball us for some of the times we've disagreed or had just differing thoughts. Because that's something just worth treasuring to some degree. Like,
open discourse is good. I think violent, awful, discourse that nobody wants to have, where you get shut down before you even get started discussing anything, that's not positive discourse. And I think what we've done is, for the most part, had pretty open and honest discourse.
We've tried to do it the best we know how. I mean, shoot, I'll sit in a truck with you for 20 minutes and I'll come around from this thing is wrong to, well, maybe after listening to you it's not so wrong. Maybe it just needs
I don't know if tweaking. I don't know about that, but what I will say is I think the one thing I love to do is understand what's at the root of people's opinions. I love to have a discussion to try to figure out how they got to that opinion, or whether or not they're just spewing something that they read on Fox News and or CNBC. I would much rather have a deep discussion with somebody that actually believes something because they have a belief, as opposed to believe something because somebody told them it was the right thing to believe. And I would love to dig down and understand why people believe what they believe. Because I feel like it informs me, because obviously they might have a different opinion, or they might have the same opinion, but maybe they got to it in a different way than I got to it. I don't know.
You know what
I'd love to have those conversations.
You know what I like as well is not just is talking to people to try to understand why they believe what they believe, but I appreciate being hit with it myself, because I think there's not enough times where you're open to being questioned, and I think it helps you grow the more you can figure out, well, where does that come from? Why do I think that? And does it make sense for me to think that? And I think that's one of the things. Like, I mean, I've kept it no secret, being a Christian on Twitch, but like, one of my teachers in school at the end of like senior year, like, he's like, listen, they gave me this book to teach you from. I'm not going to teach you from it. It's got stuff you've learned for the last 10 years. It's just blah memory stuff. I want to talk to you about, like, figure out why you're in this game, why you do believe what you believe and stuff like that. And that was really enlightening to be confronted with it at a place that was safe to talk about it. And you could have everybody's just like, yes, we're doing the thing. Having somebody goes, yeah, you are, but do you know why you are, aside from you have to because you're here, or you born in the Bible Belt or whatever? And that was always
right. Somebody told you to have that belief.
Yeah. Somebody told me, and I always appreciated that. Whether it came out all that, super grounded at the end or not, his intention was very strong, and I appreciated that. And I think we need a friend like that, in any area of your belief system. It's just somebody to go, how about I agree with you, but why don't we dig into it? Why don't we just figure out, like, I don't know, to take a conversation Ace and I had earlier this week, like, you believe this thing should happen, or this school student loan forgiveness, like that kind of thing.
Student loan forgiveness. Yeah.
Let's get into that. How does this work? What does it do? Where's it coming from? Blah 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 blah. And you might get to the answer at the bottom of it, or you might be like, that leaves me with one question. I should go explore that question. And I think that's good. I think that's valuable, and for everybody, people who don't agree and people who do. Yeah. And
by the way, I really wanted to dive into that conversation, but I'm like, I don't have time to really spend in this conversation at this moment, but I would have loved to dive into that conversation, because I would have suggested that people go and look at the tuition increase relative to everything else in society has over the last 30 years and see that it's been an astronomical rise in tuition costs.
Well, Jacob,
even over medical expenses and healthcare expenses. I would have said, go take a look at it and see if we still have the same opinion at the end of the day.
I'm about to introduce you to my friend Pandora because you and her are having a real good time opening boxes here at the end of the day when I'm supposed to be turning off the internet and going to sleep.
That's what I do.
Gotta quit doing that. You gotta quit doing that,
That's
and then
what
you
I
make
do.
me rebut, and then you make the chat rebut, and then we talk to the chat. We're gonna be here for hours.
I know.
Go to sleep.
I know. Well, guys, we really do need to go to sleep. I've got a little one in there that's going to be awake all night, and I'm going to get no sleep. By the way, this is me on no sleep. I haven't slept in 2 nights because that
explains
little
a
one
lot.
has not slept at all. And so it's been like 48 hours since I got at least a little bit of sleep, and I'm struggling.
Go to
struggling.
bed, big dummy. All right, we love you guys.
What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go to bed and get to...
Yes, GSTV
Woken up
Media
all night.
isn't even streaming anymore, and we were gonna raid them. That was like an hour ago. Go to bed, everybody. We love you. We'll see you next time. Jump in Discord if you want to continue the discussion. But y'all are amazing, and we appreciate you more than you know. Bye,
Guys, love y'all. Bye.